Thanks for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello everyone, welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. My name is Steven Joderand. Joining me today, as always, is Arman and Jake Watroba. And on today's episode, we break down the Western Conference playoffs. Come back later this week, we talk about the Eastern Conference playoffs. And listeners, this is episode 100 or 150. Hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and follow us at Uncle Sam's Soccer Pod. Send in your comments and thoughts. We want to hear them. Jake, Arman, welcome. We are finally here. MLS playoffs. We're talking about the Western Conference. And before we even get to the Western Conference, it is a new MLS format. We added a new team to the playoffs for each conference. We only gave one bye. Now we got single game elimination. Plain and simple. We're getting straight to it. Jake, how excited are you for this new format?
I mean, I guess it should make things more interesting and provide for more upsets. I know the one gripe with the previous format was road teams in that first leg seemed to really embrace bunker ball more. But I don't think that's going to change with this format. I think you're still going to see the New England Revolution on Saturday go into Atlanta and bunker down and try to win a one-game knockout round or one-game playoff 1-0. It'll be interesting to see if this format does anything in terms of excitement or whatnot. I don't think it personally will. I think you're going to see more of the same.
I don't know. I kind of enjoy it. From watching the knockout round games last year, I mean, I know they were midweek, and it kind of sucked that they were midweek. It was really fun. I mean, that Columbus Crew DC United game last year was obviously a really good atmosphere, really fun, one-off. I didn't like the double eliminate or the two legs. I thought they were giving a little bit too much advantage to a lower seed and diminishing the value of the regular season. But I think this single elimination should be a lot more fun. A little bit of a quick turnaround from this weekend to the next round of games, but I think it should be fun and exciting. But I think Jake might be right as well in terms of a little bit of some bunker ball being involved. But I'm excited. I mean, I can't be complaining about anything.
But one gripe we had in the green room, fellas, was the fact that Minnesota United and LA Galaxy, arguably the biggest game of the weekend, is put up. It is matched up against Sunday Night Football, and that is the Dallas Cowboys, one of the biggest teams in America, against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know. I personally don't have a problem with it. Jake, you think the league could have done a better job at scheduling some of these games?
Yeah, I think they could have pushed Union Red Bulls and United Galaxy back 2 hours, and you wouldn't have this conundrum of United Galaxy going up against arguably what might be the most watched regular season football game this year between the Cowboys and Eagles.
I don't know.
I know, sorry.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I forgot. It's Buffalo Bills versus the New England Patriots. My bad.
No,
I apologize. I forgot
this
here.
Is not. This is not. There's no chance that this is the biggest game of the season. I'm sorry. We're not talking about the NFL. Besides the point.
It's probably Cowboys-Giants, actually, if the Giants are competitive in 2 weeks or whatever the Cowboys play.
There you go.
Now
we're talking logic.
Biggest. I can tell you it's not any game involving the Chargers or the Rams because nobody in LA gives a flying you-know-what about the Chargers or Rams. So, anyway, my point being is this game should have been moved. These two matches should have been moved 2 hours earlier in the day, and you wouldn't have had this fight for eyes, if you will, or viewers, if you're MLS. I mean, Arman, you're the Cowboys fan here. Are you going to be glued to United Galaxy, or are you going to be stuck in this awkward dance of I got to flip back and forth
Can I add another wrinkle to this, by the way?
Sure.
Yankees, Astros, Game 7 scheduled for Sunday night.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing that dance. I think, for lack of a better word, I think it's a little bit of tango between ESPN and NBC. But I have a quick theory. I don't know how accurate this is or anything, but this might have to do with the college football game that's being played the day before. Maybe they have to have a certain amount of time between games to get the field ready, something like that. I don't know. I'm just thinking why they would schedule a game directly with Sunday Night Football. It doesn't seem ideal to do so, but I assume those markets, maybe Minnesota and the LA markets, well, maybe the LA market will, but maybe Minnesota aren't really focused on Cowboys, Philadelphia. But I think that field, preparing the field, because the field's gonna get beat up with football, and then you'd have less than 24 hours if they moved it up to, like, let's say 1 to actually get it ready and prepared for the game. So that could
Which
be
team
that
is
could
playing
play
on the football field?
Oh, well, we have the St. John Johnnies and the St. Thomas Tommies playing in a.
Is that their actual logo? Like Thomas and Johnny's?
I believe that is the actual names in a MIAC Division III collision. I believe this is the second to last time the two teams. This is like one of the most storied rivalries in college football. I believe this is one of the last times they're going to play, because you're not going to believe this, but the conference St. Thomas plays in kicked them out because they win too much. So this game is big enough that College Game Day came to Minneapolis a couple of years ago to quote unquote cover it. So, yeah. So that it's a big deal in these parts. It's a big deal in these parts.
Let's go, Tommies. Is that their real name?
Yes, it's the St. John Johnnies and the St. Thomas Tommies.
Oh, I wish MLS had some better nicknames. That's great. That's great, Mark.
Sounders is a great nickname.
Sounders is great. Just drop the Seattle and just be called Sounders FC.
All right, let's get this train back on track, fellas. Huh? What do you say?
It's a cougar with. Okay,
let's talk about our contenders.
Yes,
and pretenders.
yes.
Listeners, question of the day at Unc Sam Soccer Pod. Contenders and pretenders in the Western Conference behind LAFC. As we all know, seeding in the West, LAFC are number 1, Seattle 2, RSL 3, United 4, Galaxy 5, Timbers 6, and rounding out the Western Conference playoff picture is FC Dallas. Now, Arman, let's start with the Sounders. Give us your thoughts on the Sounders. Are they pretenders? Are they contenders?
So, Jake, I'm going to keep it real with you, Chief. I don't know. I honestly am really torn on the Sounders because, plain and simply, their record against teams that have made the Western Conference playoffs is 4-4-4. So they've gone straight up. They've won 4, they've tied 4, and they lost 4. You go through it, they've squeaked out a lot of their wins by just a goal. I think 12 out of 16 or 16 wins have been 1-0 or by a 1-goal margin, which is pretty ridiculous. And sure, Schmetter's a good coach, but remember we talked about they don't have that firepower that they kind of had. They were struggling in the middle of the season. They kind of turned it around, but overall, I'm not really sold on them being specifically a contender. And I know that's weird, but I feel like
they're
they just
too
kind
inconsistent.
of, yeah, exactly. That's a perfect word. They kind of just go, and then they don't go, and then it's like, well, where's the real Sounders? Stand up.
Okay. Well, let me give you this, Armand. Let me give you this. Let me counter you here because we're talking about they're too inconsistent. For me, Seattle, they're battle tested. Morris, Torres, Fry, all these guys, they've been there.
That's such an
Torres,
overrated statistic or thought. I hate that in sports. Oh, they got experience. Big effing deal.
All right, I'll remember that in about 2 months here when we're talking about the Patriots and their playoff push. Torres back from suspension at the end of the year. Big shot in the arm defensively. And I think after LAFC, I think that the team no one wants to play. I think any team going into CenturyLink Field is going to have a tough time. And my thing for me is, and I think, Armand, you've echoed my thoughts, or not my thoughts, but what I'm thinking in a way that I almost feel like the Sounders are being overlooked in the Western Conference. I think, especially on this podcast, we instantly go, it's LAFC number 1 and then Galaxy number 2. And my thing is, You talked about inconsistency. You talked about, is this team good or not? Since dropping points to 10-man LA Galaxy on August 18th, the game when they tied 2-2, the Sounders have gone 5 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw. That's a great run of form heading into the playoffs. And you get an FC Dallas team inexperienced, and then from there, you get RSL or the Timbers. I mean, come on. It seems like the Sounders have the path already carved out to the Western Conference Final.
Jake, my problem with the Sounders is that they're too inconsistent, and they're somewhat leaky at the back. They're 5th in the Western Conference when it comes to goals allowed. And the experience thing is, I don't know where to place that. We're into a new type of MLS playoffs. It's one and done. You have 90 minutes to go out there and prove your point.
You know, Steven, you talked about being leaky in the back. The loss of Chad Marshall is huge. Losing him mid-season, and their center back play has been a little bit more inconsistent with Kim Ki-hee and Arriaga at the back. I mean, Jake, you talked about adding Roman Torres. That might help, but I mean, Torres isn't. I don't know if he's match fit.
He's fresh. He's fresh.
He's fresh, but I don't know if he's match fit. In order to go maybe against a guy like Zdeněk Ondrášek of FC Dallas, who's on red hot form right now, who can occupy that space. I'm concerned about their defense because offensively we know they can hit teams on the break, especially with the Jordan Morris, the Lodero, if Rui Diaz gets hot. But right now, I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on them being a contender just yet, but they might prove me wrong and smack FC Dallas 8-0 and them sitting there looking like an idiot. So,
well, they also play FC Dallas, and we'll talk about FC Dallas here in a moment. But guys, FC Dallas is historically terrible at CenturyLink. In fact, their last win in Seattle was in 2011. They have a 1-9-2 record all time. So it seems historically that the Sounders will get past FC Dallas. The question is, what is Seattle's ceiling? And based on what we've just presented, it is up in the air. It's a coin flip. Would any of us be surprised if they're in the Western Conference Finals? No. Would we be shocked if they win around and then they're out? No. So this is the problem with the Western Conference. After LAFC, it's really flavor of the week or flavor of the weekend, depending on the matchups and the action on the field. Anyway, let's move on. Let's continue this. Let's talk about FC Dallas. And listeners, join us. Question of the day: contenders or pretenders after LAFC in the West? Dallas does travel to Seattle, as we just mentioned. Guys, plain and simple, I'm sorry, but FC Dallas is a pretender. There is no chance. Just mentioned how awful they are at CenturyLink with a 1-9-2 record all time. Moreover, they're 3-11-3 this season on the road. They boasted a really good home record. That's the reason why they're in the playoffs. But on the road, no chance. Arman, you're obviously the guy when it comes to FC Dallas in America. Pretenders or contenders?
They wouldn't be contenders. However, I'm not going to write them off for pulling an upset. I think they can make things interesting. But I'm not sold on them being a contender in any way right now. I mean, many experts are talking about this game being the most lopsided out of any of the first-round matchups, that even more than the Revolution and Atlanta United. I mean, looking at their situation, they're not good on the road. We talk about they get smacked around. When they lose really badly. They're getting goals from, I mentioned earlier, Zdeněk Ondrášek, who actually beat England with a goal late on. But I'm not sure if they can really handle the road, and I don't know what kind of football they're going to play. I mentioned this on another pod that they're actually closing practice this week, so I'm thinking they're going to come with a specific plan to try and knock off Seattle. But I'm not sold on them being contenders in any way. I mean, it would be a stunning upset, I think, if they knock off Seattle. However, I think they go in with playing with they have nothing to lose. They might actually have a chance. Because, I mean, they beat Seattle at home, and they also drew them on the road. And I thought they had a chance to beat them when they were on the road, but they didn't take advantage of it, and they kind of settled for a draw.
6-2 record at Seattle in the regular season all time.
Right. But one of those two happened this year. So I agree. Like I would be stunned if it happened, but I'm not.
Moreover, you know what Dallas's record is in Seattle in the playoffs? 0-2-1. Remember it was 2016. FC Dallas had a chance to win the treble. They go up to Seattle and have just an absolute meltdown in that first game. Seattle's not a kind place for FC Dallas.
Steven, read me the regular season record again for FC Dallas against the Seattle Sounders since 2011. Read that back to me.
1-9-2.
Now, read again the record against the Sounders in the playoffs.
0-2-1.
They're due. We're all sleeping on the FC Dallas.
Oh my God! When are you Mr. Positive? Since when did you turn into Mr. Positive?
CenturyLink Field has been a house of horrors for FC Dallas. I actually think FC Dallas has been a really nice story this year in MLS. They lose Oscar Pereira to Tijuana. We all sit here and go, oh man, is Luchi Gonzalez going to be able to lead this team into the playoffs? Some people pick them to finish outside of the playoffs looking in. I'm not sure, Arman, what your prediction was for FC Dallas. I thought they'd be a playoff team this year. I'm not sure about you or Steven, but I think Dallas goes into Seattle. They realize they're 7th in the West, and they say, hey, we got nothing to lose here. We took 4 of 6 points from this team during the season, and I think FC Dallas, high off of their 6-0 win against SKC, goes into Seattle with a little swagger. Not saying they're going to win, but they go in there, they play loose, and I think they give Seattle a match. And I think the one thing that will screw over the FC Dallas is Dallas's inexperience in the playoffs. I think that could rear its ugly
experience
head. I'm just saying, I'm not sleeping on Dallas. If we crack the mic Sunday night or Monday night, whenever we decide to record next week, and we're sitting here and we're saying, oh, look at this, FC Dallas has a trip to Portland, or FC Dallas has a trip to Real Salt Lake next week.
Jake, we'll make a wager off the mic. There's no chance that Dallas beats Seattle.
Here's the thing. I have one that I'm so bad at predictions that now I know, because I've spoken this positivity in the air, that FC Dallas is going to lose 7-0 to Seattle this week. So we're not doing
Let's take it to the bank. Let's take it to the bank.
No.
Well, Seattle host FC Dallas 3:30 Eastern on Saturday. Then you got RSL v Portland 10 p.m. Eastern time. Let's talk about that matchup. Guys, pretenders and contenders at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod. Question of the day. We want to hear it. Guys, RSL, big, emphatic. Nope. Simple. RSL is 1-9-2 with a -9 goal differential against Western playoff teams. There is absolutely no shot that they beat Portland.
So I'm going to have to be that guy. I think RSL is spooky. Like, they're a very spooky team.
Elaborate. Because I agree with Steven.
Yeah, I know you guys both are riding off RSL. And sure, they're playing under I guess, not even first-year head coach, an interim head coach in Freddie Juarez. They haven't been playing fun soccer. And you know what? I know they dropped points, or they dropped the game to the Galaxy a couple weeks ago. But, I mean, looking at their offensive weapons, I mean, Jake, I see it in the notes. You mentioned Rusnak, Jefferson Savarino, even Corey Baird. The team overall, they're not necessarily bad, right? Like, they're not like a bad team. They're a team full of fun parts. And if all those parts come together, they can really pull off something really well. And they can give it, have teams run for their money. I mean, we saw what they did against LAFC last year. And you could say they're playing right now at least better under Freddie Juarez than they have under Mike Petke. Sure, maybe that inexperience from Juarez might come back to haunt them, but they're a third seed in a pretty good spot right now. I mean, people thought RSL would flounder after losing Petke, but they've been just fine. And you know what? If all those pieces come alive, I think they can be contenders. I think they can beat Portland, and and I think they have the potential because they have beat Seattle. I think they beat them 3-0 or 4 earlier this year. And they have beat these teams. And you know what? I think they can do it. If say Dallas knocks off, Seattle, which probably won't happen. I would have RSL being that team that could knock off FC Dallas, and I think they can beat Seattle too. I think they can. I'm not like saying they're gonna win MLS Cup, but I think they can make a run to Western Conference Finals, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Arman, I'm sorry, but when you have Post a 1-9-2 with a -9 goal differential against Western Conference playoff teams, it just doesn't bode well. Sure, you can say it's a new season, everyone's 0-0, blah, 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 experience this, experience that. But RSL have to sit there and go like, crap, we can't beat any of these teams. That's just going to, I think, come back and haunt them. I think they just have a track record of not succeeding against these Western Conference playoff teams. Now, on the flip side, let's talk about Portland. Jake, you've been going on and on about Portland of what the hell are they? So, are they a contender or a pretender this postseason?
Real quick on RSL before we touch on Portland, I just want to say I think RSL are bigger pretenders than FC Dallas. That's it. That's all I'm going to say. On to Portland. Wow is right. Portland. I think Portland is like the trickiest team to figure out in MLS. I don't get why this team is. I don't even know if mediocre is the right word, but I don't understand why this team isn't better. This roster is stacked with talent.
Can I touch on that for a second? Because I think a good way of understanding is, do you know their away record is 6-8-3. It's actually not that bad when you compare it to other Western Conference teams. It's actually one more win than Seattle, Minnesota, the Galaxy, 2 more wins than RSL on the road. Okay? They're only 2 wins behind LAFC. But what has killed Portland is their home record. Do you know how many wins they have at home this season?
8.
8. Yeah, you're right. But that is 1, 2, 3 fewer than the Sounders, RSL, Minnesota. So it wasn't their form away from Providence Park. They would be playing at home if it weren't for their crappy home record compared to other Western Conference playoff teams.
I'll say this. They don't have Brian Fernandez. He's in his substance abuse, in the MLS substance abuse program. I don't know if we don't know if they have Diego Valeri. We were shocked when we saw him not in the starting 11 or 18 in their decision day match against San Jose. Do they even know how to play on the road? They've played like 90% of their last games at home, and like that could be a little bit of an issue. Overall, Jake hit the hammer on the head. This team should be up there in MLS, and something is just not working. I don't know exactly what it is, but talent-wise, they have it. I don't know. I can't really pinpoint what it is because I feel like they've just lost a bunch of dumb games or drawn a bunch of just like weird games to draw. And I mean, my litmus test personally is when they play FC Dallas, and they didn't really play well against FC Dallas, even at home. And it's like, okay, like what's wrong with this team? The team should be better. They spent $10 million on the forward. I think people figured out Brian Fernandez. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure what's going to happen, to be honest, because they're a little bit of a wild card.
Pretenders or contenders? Sorry, Arman.
God, I think you have to. I mean, like the run of form, like they haven't been great to close out the season, but the talent alone makes me think, well, if the sleeping giant wakes up, they're definitely contenders. One thing, we're hammering this road record. They've only played 2 road matches since August 4th. And in those 2 matches, a 1-0 loss to Minnesota and a 2-2 draw at SKC. We talk about the road record, but this team has not really been road tested the final 2 matches of the season. And that makes me question if this team can get it done when it matters.
Maybe playing on the road is better for Portland. They're away from the pressure of the fans.
It might be, but when the intensity's cranked up and you're on the road towards the end of the season in MLS, the Timbers didn't do it. They weren't on the road. They were at Providence Park. So it
but what I'm saying is,
to say like, well, can they get a result against RSL?
Yeah, but my point being is Portland's away from home. They can focus. They don't have the fans. They know their backs against the wall. I'm thinking this is a coin flip I'm assuming this is a coin flip of a matchup. So Portland have nothing to lose, and if they win this, nobody's surprised. If they lose this, then it's just, well, they get on with their offseason.
Well, Steven, we will have to wait and see, I guess, how the Timbers fare against RSL this week. And listeners, as a reminder, question of the day, contenders and pretenders in the Western Conference behind LAFC, and two teams that are behind LAFC, and one that has been a major thorn in their side has been LA Galaxy. And one thing we've harped, Steven, on this show since LAFC have joined MLS is when they play the Galaxy always seem to be able to rise to the occasion. And will we see that come this Sunday? They play Minnesota United, 7:30 or 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Will Zlatan and co. roll into Minnesota and get a result?
The Los Angeles Galaxy are contenders in the Western Conference. They have the superstars. They have a successful record against Western Conference playoff teams. Go back to last week. I mentioned it there. They score goals. It's just whether or not they could be mediocre in the back. If they're mediocre with that back four and defensively, watch out MLS, because the Galaxy could go pretty damn far. And Ibra is on a mission to prove everyone wrong. And the league has to be praying for an El Tráfico playoff game. But overall, the Galaxy can beat Minnesota United, and they are contenders in the Western Conference.
I really can't believe I'm saying this after the meltdown, well, not the meltdown, but the two games the Galaxy have had over the last couple of weeks. But yes, they're contenders. They're LAFC's worst nightmare, I'll say. But to get to LAFC, they have to beat Minnesota United. And I think they can. I think, again, we harp on this a lot, but it just shows how good Zlatan Ibrahimovic is, that I think just him alone and the performances he's had against LAFC have kind of shown that he can take over games and he can make up for the team being bad defensively and just take over. Steven's right. Even if they're mediocre, they were terrible last two games. If they're mediocre, I think they'll be fine. But it all depends on that defense. If that defense gets together, you know what? They are contenders, and I think they can actually be a lot of fun in the Western Conference.
Yeah, we all kind of are echoing the same sentiment here. This team is only going to go as far as Zlatan, Pavone, and Dos Santos take them. We've all talked about the issues at the back, very well known. I think the one thing the Galaxy have going for them right now is they have this week off between the regular season and postseason. Schelotto has this international window to try to figure things out and try to fix things at the back for the Galaxy. And I will say this, the one thing the Galaxy have going for them when we talk about defensive issues is the one thing they have going for them heading into this match against Minnesota United on Sunday night is Minnesota United has only scored 6 goals in their last 6 matches. You talk about a team that struggles to keep the ball out of the net. Minnesota United might be the team that LA Galaxy might want to play the most in their first round matchup.
So are you saying that Minnesota United are pretenders?
No, I am not saying Minnesota United are pretenders. You can see it on the Google Doc here. It's a prophetic yes in all caps. This team has proven already this year that it can compete in tournament football. They made their run to the Open Cup final, losing to Atlanta United. I think Minnesota United has shown they can hang with the big dogs in the Western Conference, including LAFC, as they beat them 2-0 at Banc of California Stadium in early September. On the flip side,
just wait for Adrian Heath to make a decision about the starting 11 and cost you guys silverware. That's what happened in the U.S. Open Cup final. Adrian Heath decided, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to win 0-0. And what did he learn? You don't win football games 0-0.
Yeah, but LA Galaxy isn't a team you have to worry about with all. I mean, like LA Galaxy isn't Atlanta United. LA Galaxy isn't LAFC. I don't look at LA Galaxy and like, oh my god, I'm so
Ibra,
scared. They have all these.
You're not afraid of Ibra.
Here's the thing. No, I'm not, because the entire Galaxy offense is basically attack is basically predicated on getting balls to Ibrahimovic, and it becomes kind of predictable. Maybe with Pavone, it's a new wrinkle, but I will say that the one thing the Galaxy have going for them, on top of the 6 goals scored by Minnesota United over the 6 matches, is that Minnesota United has never beaten the Galaxy since joining MLS. You talk about Adrian Heath's coaching and management in MLS. You talk about the U.S. Open Cup with the lineup. I don't think Heath has been as bad as he's been the last 2 seasons with decision making. Sure, the Open Cup was a head scratcher for me, but I don't think he has many options going into this game. I think that Minnesota United know what their starting 11 is going to be, and I don't think he's going to outthink himself here. Like I said, they're not playing LAFC. They're not going to be overmatched with attacking players like you would with a Diego Rossi and a Carlos Vela and Latif Blessing, Atuesta. I can go on and on with LAFC here. Brian Fernandez. I mean, the list goes on and on. I just don't see that with LA Galaxy. You have Dos Santos, you have Ibrahimovic, you have Pavone, and then it really just kind of falls off after that. The LA Galaxy are a 3-man show. Do I think they're contenders? Yes, but I only think they can go as far as those 3 men I just named can take them.
Yeah, I think this is the best game of the weekend, guys.
I agree. I think this could be a really open game. If Minnesota United likes to attack the Galaxy, and the Galaxy, obviously want to go attack as well. I mean, I don't think either team has really impressive tactical prowess, for lack of a better word. The one thing I think Matt Doyle or Bobby Warshaw said is Minnesota United really like grit. Like they're kind of a grit and grind team. They'll make sure that you can beat yourself. And you know what? The Galaxy are the king of beating themselves. Look at the last 2 games; they've been terrible defensively. So I think they have a chance. But again, I'm not sold on Adrian Heath, man. Like Jake knows, I'm not a huge fan of Adrian Heath. And look, it took for them 2 great seasons from Iko Para and Vito Manone. They've been 2 great players in defense, so maybe they can stop Zlatan. But I'm just not sold on Adrian Heath, and I feel like hopefully he doesn't come to the game too conservative. But I'm just not sold on him coaching. And sure, he's beaten LA, or he's done well against LAFC. But I'm not sold on them being contenders just yet. I think they might need a couple more pieces before I can call them a contender in the Western Conference.
That's fair. Listeners, join us at Uncle Sam Soccer Pod. We want to hear your thoughts. Question of the day: contenders or pretenders? Who in the Western Conference is and isn't? Now, fellas, we haven't mentioned much of LAFC, and I guess the real big question for them is, can they go on to win MLS Cup? And historically speaking, the best team in MLS regular season actually hasn't gone on to win MLS Cup. They had the best ever MLS season with 72 points. But guys, since 2010, there's only been 2 teams to have won the Supporters' Shield and gone on to win MLS Cup. Those 2 teams in 2017, Toronto FC, and you have to go back to 2011 with the Los Angeles Galaxy. New York Red Bulls last year lost in the conference finals versus Atlanta. And in 2016, Dallas losing to Seattle in the conference semifinals. So, fellas, LFC are on a bye. We all know it's MLS Cup or bust. But are you taking LFC or are you taking the field?
I'm taking LAFC. Like I said, I struggle to find a contender out of these guys, out of the other 6 teams of the Western Conference. I think LAFC is really up there. Obviously, in the one-off, things can change, and especially the Galaxy can challenge LAFC in the Western Conference semifinal. But I really think that LAFC are pretty determined, especially after Galaxy. Getting no points on the Galaxy is rough. I think, even if they play Minnesota United, they have the same motive right there. Again, no points against Minnesota United. I think Bob Bradley comes out with a plan to go from the attack. I have LAFC. I would pick LAFC to go to MLS Cup. I wouldn't see it any other way.
if we're talking in the Western Conference, if I'm taking the field or LAFC, I'm taking LAFC. Now, if we're talking all of MLS Cup playoffs, well, listeners, you have to stick around and wait for that answer at a later episode. So that's it for today's show.
That's a professional tease right there.
That's right. That's what we do in this show. We tease professionally. You can follow the show on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Question of the day: who are the contenders and pretenders in the Western Conference behind LAFC? Keep your eyes out. We will have our Eastern Conference MLS Cup preview later on this week. You can follow Steven Jodaran at Steven Jodaran, and you can follow Arman Kafai and his spicy FC Dallas takes at Arman Kafai, and you can follow myself at Jake Watroba. For Arman and Steven, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you later this week.